Hello and welcome back to another post-game review of Play Your Damn Turn. Hopefully this one will be a bit quicker to explain and run through. It's just your average BBG, BBS game with no other mods involved. 8 players, free for all. And as you can see from the map, it's the closest I've been to just conquering absolutely everything, though obviously the game kinda dragged on, even though many players could have forfeited and decided to stay, which is nice of them. I would not have their patience. And I got assigned to Australia. And I treated myself with quite a few outback stations, not all of which are extremely useful. But speaking of them, of outback stations, I started with a disappointing amount of pasture resources, which Australia has a bias towards. So that's probably all there is. South of my screen right now is where Greece spawned, their capital having been this one, and so they inevitably claimed some of this land, and it was Gorgo's Greece, not Pericles, so I could not risk too much some early aggression. So I went ahead and settled the coastline here. So, very disappointing amount of pastures, but at least I had excellent spots for districts, especially campus. Which this one is even better because of the reef. Breathtaking, so it was +3 plus the reef. This was a +5 campus. This was a 3. Is there a reef here? No, a +3 campus. Anyway, most of what happened in the game comes actually from having a dark age in classical, in spite of this very good campus. I don't remember if I delayed them to be completed after classical era was on. Probably not. I remember delaying my first galleys, because they give era score when you complete them. I went for a dark age in classical, even though like the effects of the Dark Age did not push me so far behind, mostly thanks to these very good campuses, which were pretty much all of my yields for quite a while. I had decent luxury resources as well. I think that helped me win. Let me see. Yeah, all of these, like, this is a good variety. Free plantation resources, pearls. That's already +4 just by itself. So a classical Dark Age, followed by a heroic Golden Age, an heroic medieval era, which is obviously what you want to come out of the Dark Age. And it's especially powerful on Australia because having heroic medieval era means you can have pen brush, which you want almost always. You can have monumentality, which is good if you have a few holy sites, and Australia has decent holy sites, though I think these holy sites were quite late in general for my 5th generation. And most of all, you can have free inquiry, which in Golden Age is that your commercial hubs and harbors give their goal adjacency as science. And usually you never want to place both a commercial hub and a harbor in the same city. Exceptions might apply, especially with Japan. Sometimes you can do some nice chains of harbors and commercial hubs. But in this case, I decided that it was my best shot. So with all this coastline, I did not have that much room to place those districts. But I knew that in this city here, and this one, which came a bit later, probably like halfway in the medieval gold heroic era, I would place both a harbor and a commercial harbor. And for instance, this one, which was probably the first one to be completed, I do not think their adjacency has changed much since the medieval era. And which cards do I have on? Yeah, okay, so no cards is messing with the adjacency bonus. And that means that just with these 2 districts, when you reach the medieval era, you can have access to naval tradition, which is double harbor, adjacency, which I had to force without a Eureka, and 100% commercial hub adjacency, which comes pretty easily with trade routes. So just by having these two districts, you get a baseline of 9 science, which then gets doubled because you might as well run these policy calls in medieval era. You don't have a lot of better options. And that pushed me very far ahead. Just science and culture for Penbrush and etc. And at this point, everything just kind of came together. I produced a lot of galleys early because I was absolutely hoping to find room to expand, because I was completely caught out by Greece with this mountain range and their city-state preventing me from advancing further. And besides, I have noticed India and the Cree that were in here. So I thought, okay, I need to explore ASAP to find some playable land here. And here, well, unfortunately, Russia was here, and Byzantium was here, but I was able to snatch this pretty decent city all in all, especially for Australia. And then, yeah, that was all there was, because these oceans are completely locked out. Even though, like, the ice has melted because of global warming, you still cannot pass through here. So when I was in medieval era and ahead with science and culture, I decided that my best shot was to use these ships and to move over to frigates with square rigging. At this point I could just research things without their Eureka because of how outrageous my science per turn was. I just had to do one frigate and start smashing India on their coast, because they only had 2 coastal cities, so it was absolutely not worth for them to try to push any kind of defense. And I think they probably did not expect this as well, probably because they could not scout properly. Just the same way I was not able to expand this way, they were probably not able to send scouts this way. And that's pretty much all there is, because my science was so good early on, and India probably had to prepare their borders against all their neighbors. It was way too easy for me to destroy these 2 cities, and at this point it pretty much was already over because of snowballing. Especially, like, to give you an idea of how stupidly good my science per turn was, I'm gonna try and find it. Like, for instance, the first army of the world, turn 95 in what should be the medieval era. I think you can see what I'm getting at. A digger with all the promotions. I think it was 1040. Let's see. 1060. 1060 I have the Australian unique unit, which is a replacement for the infantry, which is strong. Infantry is maybe not the most game-defining unit of its era, but 80 combat strength, the digger has +3 baseline, +10 on coastal tiles, but I did not really get this +5 when in enemy territory. I think my diggers were facing mostly medieval era units, sometimes Renaissance, so like they were just, you know how you reach, when you reach the tanks, and usually you are slightly ahead, and you can destroy walled cities with just tanks without removing the walls because they are so ahead in combat strength. I was doing that with diggers instead, and at this point it was just completely out of control. Like, Byzantium eventually reached the modern era, but I've been in information era for quite a while. Yeah, all those neighbors I faced, I think the latest unit I had to face was maybe a field cannons. Yep, I think this game is pretty much the best example of how getting ahead in science can change absolutely everything. Of course, if you are just ahead in science, then you will go nowhere because you don't have the production and gold to upgrade those units and produce new units. But in this case, I had, well, just a little bit of everything. That's exactly it. Let me check. Yeah. Since Australia relies so much on appeal, I went for Lion 2 for the city parks. I don't remember if I went that fast for it or if I put some points into Magnus first. But I went for the city parks, but I was just checking if these were the slightly overpowered city parks with 3 gold and 1 housing that was removed. They had 3 gold and Liang was deployed in 3 turns. I think that was the pre-nerfs version, but that's not the case here, so I digress. It's just a small aspect of it. And I think that's pretty much all that needs to be said, to be fair. Probably the best way for me to not win this game would have been some early pressure from Greece. But then again, I have spent quite a lot of production early on just to build like 3 slingers and 3 warriors to defend myself, and because you need these units for Eurekas later in the game as well. So like my military strength on land was probably lower than Greece, but if the Greece player was looking just at the numbers on the top of the ribbons here and looking at my strength, he probably could have been fooled by the fact that I had 3 galleys floating around, which is, I always forget the number, yeah, 90 combat strength. That actually wouldn't have done anything to my borders here. Right, I think that's all that needs to be said. It was a very enjoyable game early on, when I was like micromanaging the adjacency bonus of these districts. I remember taking especially big care and a lot of time to prepare the district discounts mechanics. I went for the campuses very early on, that is for sure. I think I did only 1 holy site, the government plaza. Then it was the turn of the harbors, which I think I have a strange relationship with harbors, because like the district itself is somewhat worse than a commercial hub, but without the housing from the lighthouse, it's extremely hard to make coastal cities any good. But in this case, these harbors in the medieval era, they were giving me, well, 4 for this one? No? Wait. Oh well, anyway, like, yeah, even a very bland baseline harbor is 3 gold per turn. So 6 gold per turn and 6 science per turn when you have the free inquiry golden age. And that was a lot. It's probably the game where I also did the most seaside resorts, because at this point I was not even sure which type of victory I was going on. All of them, in fact. Technically I won the religious victory, but culture is 1 turn away. Science, I just decided to not build any spaceports. That's pretty much all there is. I really enjoy Australia, but even though this game went so well, it's quite weird how map reliant Australia can be. Like the Outback station is incredible, and I had quite a few good ones here, but these and only these. I was completely fresh out of Outback stations after that. I got extremely good campuses early on, and that's pretty much all that can be said. Let me just see which... yeah, probably this is also part of the reason why I had such a strong start. Because this great scientist is good. Is very good if you get it on the right timing. And I have absolutely no doubt that I was able to do the Eurekas for all these 3 techs. And in this case, with this scientist you can unlock harbors without unlocking holy sites, which is not what I need here, but which can be very useful to do district discounts on civilizations that don't care about holy sites. Celestial navigation mathematics kinda ruins your district discounts, but it's still a decent tech, and you need it for education, which obviously if you are starting to build campuses, then you will want all of these. and for apprenticeship, which is just good tech in general. And engineering doesn't... Oh, I actually forgot the most important part, and that is the Kilwa Kisiwani. Because, let's see, I don't think I annexed any city-state here. So I built the Kilwa very early, and I went for it very early, probably before the medieval era. And it is a stupidly strong wonder, especially in this setup, because I had one religious city-state here, one here, commercial, 2 of them, which I probably met fairly early, 2 industrial, 2 military ones, the culture ones, I think this is just this one in the whole game, right? So basically, of course I did not own all these city-states all at once, but I was constantly doing a rotation of owning Auckland and Buenos Aires for 15% production in all my cities. Wait, yeah, 15% production for buildings and wonders in all my cities, and 30% production in the city that owned it, which is my capital. Most of the time I had 2 faith city-states for the same result, and etc. Like, not only is this wonder extremely strong, but I also had an impressive setup for it, of just those exact pairs of 2 city-states of the same type to give me the bonuses, including the very remote and hidden Nazca, which I think, let me see, I mean, of course I have destroyed a few civilizations, so I cannot see how many envoys they have, but I would not be surprised that Nazca was discovered extremely late by most players. And most likely by means of me declaring war on them and dragging Nazca into war. Anyway, I think I'm overextending myself quite a bit. I hope this was of some kind of interest. See ya.